Hey everyone, we're working hard to get our first 1,000 subscribers, sign up and you won't regret it. I fought cancer alone for 2 years. No one came. Then I inherited a beach house, and suddenly my family remembered me. When the doctor said the word cancer, it didn't sound dramatic. No thunder. No pause for effect. Just a word, spoken calmly, like he was telling me my cholesterol was a little high. I nodded. Asked about stages. Treatment options. Prognosis. I even took notes. But inside, something dropped straight through me. I'm a 62-year-old man. Widowed. 1 son. That's my whole family. So the first thing I did when I walked out of that hospital wasn't cry. I called my son. His name is Evan. He was 37 at the time. Married. 1 kid. Busy life. Corporate job. Always rushing somewhere. The phone rang twice. Hey, Dad, he said quickly. I'm walking into a meeting. What's up? I'm at the hospital, I told him. I need to talk to you. It's important. There was a pause. Just long enough for hope to flicker. Then he sighed. Can you text me instead? I really can't right now. I'll call you later. He never did. I sat in my car in the hospital parking lot for almost an hour. Didn't turn the engine on. Didn't go anywhere. I wasn't crying because I was sick. I was crying because I couldn't even say the words I have cancer to my own son. Treatment started fast. Chemo. Appointments. Blood work. Waiting rooms that smelled like disinfectant and fear. Every time I sat in that chair with an M4 in my arm, I noticed the same thing. Everyone else had someone. Wives holding hands. Daughters adjusting blankets. Grandkids bringing coffee. The chair next to me was always empty. A nurse once asked who was picking me up after treatment. I lied. My son, I said. I drove myself home every time. Shaking hands. Foggy head. Pulling over once because I thought I might pass out. At home, the apartment was silent. No messages. No missed calls. I left Evan a voicemail after my second treatment. Short. Calm. Hey, son. Just wanted you to know the chemo's started. It's rough. Call me when you can. He texted back the next day. Sorry, Dad. Crazy schedule. You'll get through this. Stay positive. That was it. His wife, Laura, was even colder. Whenever I called, her voice was polite but distant, like I was a customer, not family. We're very busy right now, she'd say. Evan's working late. The kid has activities. We'll visit when things slow down. They never did. Around week 4, my hair started coming out in clumps. I woke up and saw it all over the pillow. Black strands everywhere. I sat on the edge of the bed holding a fistful of my own hair, trying not to panic. That morning, I called Evan again. I'm scared, I told him. I don't feel like myself anymore. He sounded annoyed. Dad, this is normal. Everyone loses hair on chemo. You're focusing on the negative too much. He was on speaker. I could hear traffic. Voices. Life happening somewhere else. I hung up and drove myself to a barber shop. Asked them to shave it all off. The barber tried to make small talk. I couldn't answer. When I got home, I stood in front of the mirror and didn't recognize the man staring back. That was the moment I understood something brutal. I was completely on my own. Months passed. Treatments. Tests. Waiting. And then, in the middle of all that, I got a call from a lawyer. My older brother Michael had died suddenly. Heart attack. No warning. We hadn't been especially close, but we stayed in touch. He lived in California, near the coast. The lawyer asked me to come in. I didn't expect anything. Michael had his own life. His own money. But when I sat in that office and heard the words, sole beneficiary, my brain shut down. He left me everything. The beach house. Savings. Investments. A fully paid-off house overlooking the ocean. I remember asking, are you sure? The lawyer nodded. I walked out of that office holding documents that felt unreal. I had spent 2 years just trying to survive. And suddenly, I had a future again. 6 months later, after the paperwork cleared, I moved. I left the hospital, the empty apartment, the quiet phone. I moved to the coast. For the first time since my diagnosis, I slept with the sound of waves instead of sirens. And that's when my phone finally rang. It was Evan. Hey, Dad, he said warmly. I heard you moved. To California, right? That's amazing. Must be a nice place. It was the first genuinely cheerful thing he'd said to me in 2 years. I looked out at the ocean. And for the first time, I felt something twist in my chest that wasn't fear. It was suspicion. They didn't ask how I was doing. They asked about the house. After Evan's call, things changed fast. Too fast. For 2 years, my phone had been a paperweight. Now it wouldn't stop lighting up. Evan called again the next day. Then the day after that. Laura started texting. Long messages. Smiley faces. Exclamation points. We miss you. So happy you're feeling better. California must be beautiful this time of year. Not once did they ask how the treatments were going. Not once did they mention the word cancer. It was like those 2 years had been erased. Evan talked about visiting. Maybe next month, he said. The kid would love the beach. Laura went further. You shouldn't be alone out there, she said during one call. You've been through so much. Family should stick together. Family. The word felt strange coming from her mouth. When they finally arrived, I tried to stay neutral. Not cold. Not warm. Just observant. They showed up with luggage like they were staying a while. Evan hugged me awkwardly. Laura kissed my cheek. Their son ran straight past me into the house, yelling about the ocean view. Laura walked from room to room, commenting out loud. This place must be worth a fortune. Wow, these windows alone. Michael really had good taste. She opened cabinets. Peeked into drawers. Asked questions that had nothing to do with me. Evan sat down and started talking about logistics. Maintenance must be expensive, he said. Property taxes too. A place like this needs management. I nodded, listening. Laura smiled sweetly. You've been through chemo, she said. That takes a toll. Sometimes people don't even realize when they're not thinking clearly. There it was. I didn't respond. She continued, casual as ever. I mean, we just want to make sure you're protected. If anything happened, paperwork could get complicated. That night, I couldn't sleep. Something about the way she said protected made my skin crawl. A few days later, my neighbor Frank, an older retired cop, stopped me by the fence. Your daughter-in-law asked me some strange questions, he said carefully. What kind of questions? He hesitated. She wanted to know if you forget things. If you leave the stove on. If you get confused. My stomach dropped. That same afternoon, while organizing old documents in my desk, I found something that didn't belong there. An envelope. No stamp. No return address. Inside was a copy of a legal petition. Request for guardianship due to cognitive impairment. My name was on it. Laura's statement was attached. She claimed I had memory issues. That I struggled with bills. That I was mentally unstable after chemotherapy. It wasn't true. Not a single word. And Evan had signed it. I sat there for a long time, reading the pages over and over. I thought back to every unanswered call. Every ignored voicemail. Every lonely drive home from treatment. They didn't come when I was sick. They came when I was valuable. When I confronted them, I stayed calm. I laid the papers on the kitchen table. Explain this, I said. Evan went pale. Laura started talking fast. You're misunderstanding. It's just precautionary. We were thinking about your safety. My safety, I repeated. Yes, she said. After everything you've been through, it's reasonable. I looked at my son. You really think I can't take care of myself? He didn't answer. Silence filled the room. I told them to leave. They did, but not before Laura said something that stuck with me. We'll talk about this again, she said softly. For your own good. That's when I understood. They weren't going to stop. And they were willing to take everything from me to get what they wanted. A week later, I came home and found the gate open. Lights were on inside the house. I stepped in quietly. Laura was in my bedroom. Going through my drawers. I asked her what she was doing. She jumped, then smiled. I was worried, she said. You weren't answering your phone. I pulled mine out. No missed calls. I called the police. When the officers arrived, Laura tried to play family. But the law didn't care. They wrote the report. Evan showed up too late. He begged me not to press charges. I signed anyway. That night, sitting alone again, I felt something new. Not fear. Clarity. I wasn't the weak one. And they had just made a serious mistake. They thought I'd back down. Instead, I prepared. After the police incident, Evan stopped calling. Laura didn't. She switched tactics. No more sweetness. No more concern. Her messages became formal. Short. Legal sounding. We're just worried about you. This doesn't have to get ugly. Let's handle this like adults. I didn't respond. Instead, I hired a lawyer. His name was Robert Hale. Mid-50s. Calm. Sharp eyes. The kind of man who didn't waste words. He read everything in silence. The guardianship petition. The police report. The text messages. Then he leaned back. They were trying to move fast, he said. Before you realized what was happening. Can they do it? I asked. Take control? They can try, he replied. But it won't be easy. Not if you're prepared. That word again. Prepared. For 2 years, I had endured treatment schedules, side effects, survival statistics. I knew how to follow a plan. Robert laid it out step by step. First, medical proof. I scheduled a full cognitive evaluation. Neurological tests. Psychological assessments. Independent doctors. Every result came back clean. No impairment. Fully competent. Sound judgment. Second, documentation. I gathered everything. Bank statements showing I paid every bill on time. Maintenance records. Emails. Calendars. Notes. A paper trail that showed control, not confusion. Third, witnesses. Frank agreed to testify. So did my primary care physician. Even my oncologist. People who had seen me at my weakest, and knew I was still capable. While I prepared, Laura pushed harder. A certified letter arrived. Formal notice. Guardianship hearing scheduled. She was forcing it. Evan called the night before the hearing. For the first time in years, he sounded nervous. "Dad, this is getting out of hand," he said. "We can still fix this." "Fix what?" I asked. "This whole situation," he said. "You don't need to make enemies." I let the silence stretch. "You ignored me when I was sick," I said finally. "Now you want to protect me?" He exhaled sharply. "You're not thinking straight." I hung up. The hearing was brief. Laura's lawyer spoke confidently, until Robert stood up. He presented the medical evaluations. The financial records. The police report. Then he introduced the petition itself. And Laura's statements. The judge read them carefully. Then looked at her. "You're alleging cognitive decline," the judge said. "Based on what medical evaluation?" Laura hesitated. "Well, it's common after chemotherapy." "Common is not evidence," the judge interrupted. The case collapsed fast. The petition was denied. But that wasn't the end. Because Laura had made another mistake. In her rush, she had submitted something she shouldn't have. An email. Printed and attached. She thought it helped her case. It didn't. It was an email she'd sent to Evan. And it changed everything. In it, she wrote, "Once the guardianship is approved, we can sell the house quickly. The market's perfect. Your dad won't even need to know the details." Robert highlighted that sentence. The judge went quiet. Then spoke slowly. "This court does not look kindly on abuse of guardianship proceedings for financial gain." The room felt suddenly very small. The judge dismissed everything. And referred the matter to the district attorney for review. Outside the courthouse, Evan wouldn't look at me. Laura looked furious. That should have been enough. But I wasn't done. Because there was one more thing they didn't know. While all this was happening, I had made changes. I updated my will. Everything. The house. The accounts. The investments. All of it was placed into a trust. Irrevocable. With conditions. Evan was no longer the primary beneficiary. In fact, he wasn't one at all. Instead, I arranged for the property to be donated to a coastal cancer recovery foundation upon my death. Patients who had no family. People like I had been. Robert looked at me when we finished signing. "You're certain?" he asked. "I've never been more clear," I said. A week later, Evan showed up unannounced. No Laura. No son. Just him. He stood on the porch, smaller somehow. "I didn't think you'd go this far," he said. I looked at him. "At what point," I asked, "did you think you had gone too far?" He didn't answer. I closed the door. And for the first time, I didn't feel guilty. The 3 words I said when they finally understood. After the hearing, silence returned. No calls. No texts. No polite concern. Just absence. For a while, I wondered if that was it. If Evan had finally accepted the truth. If Laura had moved on to easier targets. I should have known better. 2 months later, a letter arrived. Handwritten. From Evan. He apologized. At least, that's what it looked like at first glance. He wrote about stress. Pressure. Laura's influence. He said he felt trapped. That he never meant for things to go that far. He asked to meet. Just the 2 of us. I didn't answer right away. I walked along the beach that evening, watching the sun sink into the water. For 2 years, I had waited for him to show up. To care. To choose me. Now he wanted closure. I agreed to meet him the next morning. He arrived early. No confidence this time. No rehearsed tone. He looked tired. We sat at the kitchen table, the same one where I had laid out the guardianship papers months earlier. He started talking. Explaining. Justifying. Blaming circumstances. I let him finish. Then I slid a folder across the table. Inside was a copy of the trust documentation. He flipped through it, confused. "What's this?" he asked. "My final arrangements," I said. He scanned faster. Then stopped. His face drained of color. This says the house is no longer mine to give," I finished. He looked up sharply. You gave it away? No, I said. I placed it where it will actually help someone. He laughed nervously. You can't be serious. I am. His voice cracked. So after everything, you're cutting me out? I didn't raise my voice. You cut yourself out, I said. Years ago. Silence stretched between us. He stared at the papers like they might change if he looked long enough. Finally, he asked the question he'd been avoiding. What about me? I stood up. Walked to the door. Opened it. The ocean wind filled the room. He looked at me, waiting. That's when I said the 3 words. We are done. Not angry. Not loud. Final. He stood there for a moment, then left without another word. I watched from the window as he walked down the path and disappeared. I didn't cry. Later that day, I called my lawyer and finalized everything. No loose ends. No room for reinterpretation. A week later, I received notice that Laura had tried, unsuccessfully, to contest the trust. She failed. Legally. Completely. Months passed. My health stabilized. The scans stayed clear. The ocean stayed where it was. Sometimes people ask if I regret it. If it hurts to lose your only child. The truth is simple. I lost him long before the house. Long before the money. I lost him when he didn't show up. Now, I spend my mornings walking the beach with people who understand what survival costs. People who don't see me as an asset. Just as a man who made it through. And when I lock the door at night, I feel something I didn't feel for a long time. Safe. At peace. And finally, free.